All right, hello and welcome to our short webinar where today we'll be introducing some exciting new Accelerator templates for Nintex Workflow Cloud, specifically in the area of quality management. So today we'll spend 10 minutes setting the stage, briefly introducing who we are, why we created these templates, and why we think Nintex is a great technology platform for them. And then we'll spend up to 30 minutes giving you a quick tour. We'll save the remaining time after that for your questions and to discuss ideas for how to apply these templates effectively in your organization. So let's get started with just a brief background about us. My name is Neil Simpson, and I'm the founder and principal of InnoVelocity. On the phone with me are senior consultant Spencer Scott, the developer of these templates, as well as Raymond Pineda and Joe Cho, who provided input on templates based on their decades of experience managing quality programs at the leading US semiconductor manufacturer. I founded InnoVelocity just over 14 years ago because I saw the tremendous opportunity in pairing up low-code automation tools like Nintex with proven process analysis and improvement best practices. When you can build and update business process applications quickly with clicks instead of code, your operations can achieve tremendous innovation, efficiency, and agility. We've notched up some great case studies with leading organizations in a variety of different market verticals, delivering projects of all kinds using the top process automation, document processing, RPA, and analytics solutions on the market. And a portion of our business is what we call quick start coaching, basically providing training and support for technical teams to help them get their projects off the ground on the best possible footing. But often our customers are from the business operations side of the house and engage us on partnerships to help them audit, analyze, improve, and automate multiple aspects of their business over the longer haul. One of the areas we frequently consult is in the area of quality. And though we do a lot of QC automation, we're not talking only about the functions of quality control, but also the broader set of processes, system, and culture that enable an organization to satisfy customers. We could probably do a whole webinar on the definition of quality, but for the purposes of today's discussion, we're going to focus on the key outcomes that are typically expected in our quality-related engagements: reduction in quality issues, improvements in cycle time and qual time, cost savings, and of course, audit compliance. So to realize these objectives, most often the same four key fundamental process building blocks are introduced. Structured problem solving, which is a process to identify and resolve the true root cause of issues and verify the effectiveness of the solution. Change control, to make sure that there's systematic review and documentation before making product and process changes. New product introduction processes to implement a phased gate approach to take an idea for a product all the way to a reproducible and refined final product. And Kaizen process improvement, which is the opportunity for workers to improve their own daily work in a structured and organized way. However, traditionally, the way that these processes get rolled out in an organization is to send workers to a training class where they receive a binder and a certificate, maybe, that just goes on the shelf. So when we decided to put these templates together, we asked, what if a digital process automation platform could act as a guide, allowing an organization to easily customize an industry best practice to make it their best practice, to build in all the necessary training and instructions, to put the process on rails and make it part of an employee's daily work. And not just that, but automatically collect all the necessary data for audit, for management metrics, and for process improvements. And last but not least, to allow for easy automation, connecting to other systems to minimize swivel chair data entry and other types of manual efforts. In our view, Nintex is an ideal platform for these kind of templates. It provides incredible ease of use both for builders and for users, It's got great pricing models that can suit projects and budgets of any size, and perhaps most importantly, a great ecosystem upon which further automation can be done, whether it be their powerful DocGen and electronic signature components, or their extensions framework, which allows connectivity to most enterprise software like SAP, Oracle, SharePoint, ServiceNow, and so on. So let's take a look at these templates here.
Okay, so key elements of this demo will be to show a couple of the digital forms with embedded instructions and the visualization of the process, to show the ease with which fields and instructions can be modified and changed, to glance at the built-in integration options, and to show the reporting dashboards and the audit trail. And let's start off here in My Nintex. This is the home page for the Nintex Workflow Cloud, and it shows you all of the forms available to start, as well as any tasks waiting for you to perform. It's permission controlled, so you only see what's relevant to you. Let's take a look at the Kaizen event process first. As a reminder, the Kaizen event process is designed to allow any worker to submit improvements to their own work area. Not just an idea box, but a guide that enables them to create an entire proposal for their idea's implementation and to have that proposal approved by reviewers using a proven Lean Six Sigma approach. And one thing in common with each of the templates that we have here is this status bar at the top. It gives a very clear and friendly indication to the worker immediately what the process is and where they are in it. As a training tool, this is extremely important to have the context of the whole process right up in front of you. You can see here on this first page also that there are some instructions already built in, as well as the ability to define the reviewers for your process. When you implement this template, you could connect it to your own systems or add your own rules to set these automatically. And as we progress through the different pages here, you'll see these toggles for additional instructions and examples. In this case, we're guiding workers through what they need to do in order to write up a good Kaizen plan. If we move to the next page, you'll see an example of additional instructions. And this is true, of course, for the last page as well. Now, you can customize these easily if you want to include examples more specific to your own organization, or maybe to incorporate some lessons learned. We'll talk a little bit about the customization aspect of this later on. But I'm going to go and quickly fill in this form just to show you a couple of things about how it behaves. And I'm just going to put my own email address in here for all of these participants just to expedite things. And then I'm going to complete some other aspects of this form to show you validation rules. So here, I'm selecting the planned dates for when I'm going to put my Kaizen plan together. I'm just going to go ahead and pick next week for this. And for my Kaizen plan, I'm just going to put an example here for now. And now for the due phase, I need to input the dates for when I expect to be executing this plan. And a very basic example of a validation here is if I try and make the start date of this the same as when I'm actually doing the planning phase, it's going to throw up a warning and tell me that I can't do that. It's a simple validation, but a pretty effective one. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one out into the following week. And I'll go ahead and do the same just for my check phase, put this a little bit further out into the future here so that it will let me continue. Now, one other aspect of this which is nice is you can build in other types of validations very easily, such as required fields, one of the most common types of validation. So if I had failed to fill in all of the required information and I try and submit my form, it's going to flag what I missed and tell me what to input. So for example, here I need to provide a budget just say $200, and I missed my due phase plan. So I'll just put my example in here as well. And then once I submit, I will get a friendly confirmation that tells me that the form was submitted, the data was received, so I can go ahead and close this tab. So now I'm back to this Nintex homepage, and I'm going to move to the tasks area. And tasks is like a to-do list. It basically shows you everything that's waiting for your attention all in one place. You can see the active ones, the completed ones, or you could search and filter if you have a lot using this bar here at the top. And I have a task here in plan phase because I marked myself as the reviewer for this plan. So I can go ahead and open this one up from my task list. One thing I should mention is that in addition to appearing here, whenever a task gets created for me, I also receive an email. And within that email, I could also click a link to get right into this form, regardless if I'm in a PC or a mobile device. The forms are responsive, so I could just as easily open this up on my iPhone or Android tablet, for example, and have all the same functionality. So we've opened up the Kaizen plan here, and we're just taking a look. And you can see as I'm going through what's been submitted, I can add my own comments. I'm going to say this looks great. I guess it's my own plan, so I would say that. And I'm providing this feedback, of course, on each step. And then you'll see here at the bottom, there is a selection where I can finally approve or deny the plan. So if I were to deny it, the person who submitted it would get an email with all the explanation that I put in my comments about why it has been denied. But I'm just going to go ahead and approve this one because I think everything looks great. So back to my task list. There's another step to track the progress of implementing this plan. I'll go ahead and open this here. So it's really important to capture this information for tracking. We'll talk a little bit more about tracking when we get to the reporting part of the demonstration. But beyond that, the check and the act phase are used to validate the implementation of the plan and to correct as necessary, with full tracking there as well. So hopefully you can see that for empowering workers to improve their own processes in an organized, systematic, and consistent way, this could be a simple but very effective tool with the added side benefit of tracking the history and the status of all these improvements that are being submitted. But let's go ahead and move on to a different module now where I'd like to highlight a couple more things. So if I go back to the form list here, let's open our structured problem solver this time. Now, the idea behind the structured problem solver is to provide a single process and a single database for all issues and improvements in your company. You could use this for customer issues, for audit findings, for safety issues and near misses. It basically follows the steps defined in ISO to make sure that the root cause is identified and addressed, and that the effectiveness of that root cause is validated. You sometimes hear this referred to as an 8D process, or sometimes as a kappa, and regardless of what you call it, the principles and the steps are largely the same. But the scope can be broader or narrower as your situation demands, because of course, just like the Kaizen template, you can fully customize all of this. So here you can see the same concepts in terms of the process indicator and the instructions and examples. In addition to that, you'll see the capability down here for file uploads and supporting documents, and these can be integrated with your own document management system of record if you're using, let's say, SharePoint, for example, or Box or something like that. You can easily perform that integration. In addition, you'll see there's some drop-down menus which could be data-driven as well, coming from a different system of record or a database. In this process, we also have an example of conditional routing. So I'm going to go back to the task list here. I'll just cancel out of this. And I'll open up one which is already waiting for me here. This is the task that's received by the quality manager once the initial problem has been identified and submitted. And here you can see down at the bottom, we have a decision for whether or not containment is required, a conditional step. So containment would be the short-term actions that you put in place to basically stop the bleeding when there's an issue, particularly important if it's something that's impacting a customer. While you're investigating and correcting the root cause, you want to limit the impact as soon as possible. And when customizing your template, you could add a rule so that certain types of issue, certain severities of issue will automatically get this containment step without the manual selection. You'll also see a spot here for the quality manager to choose the issue owner. And this is another example of potential customization where you could set up predefined owners for certain customers or issue types and have that be automatically filled in so that the step could be completely automated out of the process. So speaking of customization, let's take a look at that now. As a designer, I have access to this Automate tab up here. And let's say I want to make a change to the SPS process. I can do that by clicking here to bring up the editor. And as this is loading, what you'll see here is the workflow, which is the starting point for the design of the template in Nintex. You can drag and drop very easily different actions here, for example, to assign a task to someone with a form or to send an email, and all kinds of different system integrations, which we'll come back to here in a little bit. But let's go ahead and open up this initial form. And you can see as this is coming up that this is also very drag and drop. You can add all kinds of different form elements very easily just by putting it here on your form. But in this case, we're just going to add a new severity, and we're going to make it a required field. So here you can see these are my different current severity options from small through to full stop or a showstopper. And let's say we've discovered a new, even higher severity. We'll just call it whoa. And we want to make it a required field. Right now, there's no asterisk. It's something that would allow you to submit without filling it in. So I'm just going to choose yes for a required field. You can see there's a bunch of other options down here that you can put in as well. But if I want to preview what I'm working on as I'm working on it, you have a handy preview tab up here that you can click. And this will allow you to see the changes that you're making. So you can see here I've got my asterisk, I've got my new option already. Once you're satisfied with your changes, there's also a full workflow testing option here, which is kind of cool, which will allow you to basically run the workflow from start to finish, go through all the forms, all the steps in your template before you publish it for actual end users to use. And of course, when you're ready, you click the publish button, and that's what makes it live for people to begin using your new template. And there is a full version history as well, so you can see who changed what when, and even potentially move backwards and restore old versions of your templates. So hopefully this gives you a sense for how fast and easy it is to customize these templates to mold them into your best practices without needing a bunch of development time and money. But a last thing that I'd like to highlight on this screen before we move off of it are the integration options that you can see in the workflow designer. So you can always call a web service using this integration option here. And a web service is an open standard that's utilized by most enterprise software and web applications. However, as we're scrolling down here, you can see there are a lot of pre-built connectors which you can also just drag and drop to enhance your applications. So for example, you might want to store your SPS documents in OneDrive. That's easy. You can just drag and drop options into your process. Maybe you want to do electronic signature with DocuSign. That's also very easy and drag and drop. And as I'm scrolling down here, you're going to see a bunch of others, some of which you may recognize as very common enterprise systems, whether it be Box, the Google apps, Salesforce, Dynamics CRM, SQL Server, Twilio, ServiceNow, etc. And the neat thing is that Nintex is adding to these all the time. So there's going to frequently be additional easy to use wizards and integrations, which will make it as simple as drag and drop to integrate with other systems. So the last thing I'd like to touch on in this quick demo is the reporting and analytics capability. Now, although Nintex has its own powerful analytics capability, one thing we get asked all the time is about integrating the information that's collected in these templates into some kind of data warehouse and using common tools like Tableau or Power BI to report on them. These templates are capturing very useful data, trends and information about all your issues and process improvements, audit trails, lessons learned, information to identify bottlenecks, you name it. It's critically important to be able to report all of this out. So what we have here is an example of a Tableau report looking at the SPS data that we're collecting from our template. And this is the kind of thing that a quality manager might have previously spent weeks pulling together from various Excel files and email exchanges, but here they can pull it in real time just with a click. And most commonly when we're implementing these types of reports, you're going to be looking at things like a trend of different issues by severity. You're going to be looking at things like the closure time average over time, maybe a Pareto chart of the issue sources that are most common as compared with the systemic action to correct them, or Pareto of the location where the issues are occurring. And one of the nice things about Tableau, along with other reporting tools, really is the ability to drill into the data and explore it. So for example, I could just look at the previous month and it would customize my view so that it's only showing information related to that. And then maybe I want to further customize my view and I'm only interested in the sub-supplier issues. So I can click, and again, it's going to filter all the information that's displayed and narrow it down further to sub-suppliers. And then underneath, I can actually see a filtered list of the actual issues or cases that were tracked through my template that meet that criteria. So here's my 3 sub-supplier issues from that previous month. And finally, at the bottom, there's your audit trail so that you have the full record of who did what when in the process, which is always important for auditors. So while this has been a bit of a whirlwind, hopefully you're getting a sense that these templates provide quality best practices with most features already built in, really great guides to help their adoption, and a really fast and easy capability to customize them, to roll them out, and to extract data.
So the next question is inevitably, how do we get started? And it's usually not enough to just put in an automation tool and hope for the best. The model that we usually follow in our consulting engagements is to work with our customers to do a quick audit to baseline their current processes and metrics and get a picture of the current state. We would then help the management team to identify and prioritize what gaps or opportunities to address first and set measurable goals for those based on what we learned in the baseline. And rather than giving over the implementation of the templates to an IT team in a darkened room, we would help to set up a collaborative project team, including clearly defined business process owner and subject matter experts who are involved in the work day to day. And we would typically provide our technical expertise, if you need it, to help you customize and deploy your template in the right way. And in the design, we'd be sure to include all of the right data collection to generate the metrics so that you can measure whether or not you've met the goals that you defined originally, and you can measure them to set the new baseline. And then you would effectively rinse and repeat and move on to the next opportunity. So this is definitely a pretty involved process, and I'd like to bring up a couple of resources that can help you. First of all, if you're already a Nintex user, you can visit our page on the Nintex Solution Accelerator gallery and download the Kaizen template for free, and you can check out the others. If you're interested in a quick baseline consultation, that's something we also offer, a limited number of hours to help you identify where the templates could help and to estimate the return on investment. Just reach out to info@innovelocity.com or the website that you can see listed here, innovelocity.com/quality. So now I'd like to hand things over to Lou from Nintex to address the questions and answers portion of the presentation.
Hi, Neil. Thanks so much. And for everyone that doesn't know me on the call, my name's Luke Bodman. I'm a strategic partner manager here and work very closely with Neil and his team from InnoVelocity. First off, just really want to say thanks for putting this all together. Really, really cool what you have been able to accomplish with the Nintex platform. And so to kind of get into the questions, and for everyone on the phone call, if you have questions that you'd like for us to go ahead and answer, if you look at the bottom of the On24 website that we're on here, in the navigation pane, all the way at the bottom, you'll see Setup, Live View, and then Q&A. Go ahead and open up that Q&A box, and then you can go ahead and drop your questions in that box, and we'll definitely try to get to them. And if we don't, we'll definitely follow up to ensure that these questions get answered for you. So going and seeing that we're seeing more of them come in here, I think the first question we'll tackle, Neil and team, is, so question number one, can I do the needed customization on my template myself at any time, even after the issue has been initiated, based on the situation for the issue at hand?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, I like these. So there is a versioning concept that we mentioned earlier on, and the versioning concept is really important because you don't want to move the goalposts while a particular process or case is running. So for example, if I created an issue on version 1, and in version 1, I had a step where the quality manager reviews it on the second step, I wouldn't want to modify my template so the quality manager has to review it again on step 5. It could cause some confusion. So generally speaking, the way that it works is when you make a change, you publish a new version, and then only the new requests that you create will be following the changes that you put on that new version. Now, that's not to say you couldn't edit a current version if you really wanted to, but we usually advise against it unless it's a really kind of urgent situation, like something is just broken and you need to fix it to let people continue.
Thank you, Neil. And another question, why would I use this instead of buying off-the-shelf tools for Kappa, MPI, and change control?
Okay, now that's a fair question too. There are a lot of tools out there that you can buy that do those things. In a word, I would say flexibility. Nintex is designed to allow you to customize pretty much anything. Hopefully you got a sense of that from watching the presentation. So whether it's the forms or the process steps or the system calls that you're making, you can really mold this into whatever it needs to be with far more flexibility than anything you would buy off the shelf. Generally speaking, if you get an off-the-shelf tool, you have to adapt your business to the tool. Whereas, one of the things I love about Nintex is you can adapt the tool to your business, which is really the way that it should be. Another thing that I would say, another big reason is that if you invest in the platform, you can automate additional processes beyond just the scope of quality. So you could start to put in all kinds of approval processes or compliance processes, and you'd have a single experience for all your workers, a single task list. If you remember that concept earlier on, that single spot with your to-do list, having all of that in one place is pretty powerful.
Gotcha. And so I think a good follow-up question from another one that just came in. So can you give us an idea of how much time it would take to customize this, to add an additional step into the process? For example, if I want to add a director's review step for the root cause resolution?
Yeah, no, we actually see that a lot. That's one of the customizations, kind of referring back earlier. Every organization has a slightly different approval path for things. In terms of the amount of time, I mean, that's another cool thing about low-code tools like Nintex is you're likely going to be spending more time capturing and confirming the requirements and doing the change management than you actually are doing the development. So to insert an approval step, just kind of taking that example, you could pretty much drag and drop a new task onto your workflow, copy the existing form and tweak it a little bit, add an email and a database update, click the test and publish. So, we'd be talking about maybe a day or less to actually do the changes, depending on how thoroughly you want to do regression testing and all of that.
Perfect. So one of the questions that came in, I can go ahead and take this one. So will the presentation be shared along with the recording? The answer is yes. We will definitely get out this recording for everybody to review on their own time if they weren't able to catch the entire session. So we'll definitely kick that out to you via email. So I think for the InnoVelocity team, when we talk about integration, the question is it possible to integrate our SAP, ERP, and other lines of business systems we have like SharePoint into something like we're looking at today?
Yeah. I mean, so I